Hey, I'm Jacinta Daniel, writer, speaker, and host of Polished Jems. This podcast is for the ones rebuilding their faith, rediscovering their purpose, and returning to God, one fruit of the Spirit at a time. If that's you, hit subscribe and join the journey, because healing is possible and your faith story isn't finished yet. Perfect. Good evening, everyone, and welcome yet again to another episode of Polished Gems. I'm your host, Jacinta Daniel, and I have a special guest here with me tonight. Before I get into my introduction, kind of want to let you guys know what we're talking about. We're actually talking about when faith is all you have, from depression to wholeness. So, guys, I want you to sit back, relax, and let me introduce tonight's guest, who is someone who has lived with the very message that she actually teaches. I want to introduce you guys to Maz Alexander. She is a mental well-being and transformational coach. She is also a social worker, author, speaker, and mother based in South London. Maz works with busy professionals and even caregivers, the people who are always showing up for everyone else, helping them build healthy boundaries and create space for themselves to actually take care of themselves so they can live lives that are balanced, authentic, and truly fulfilled. But what makes her voice so powerful is that her message didn't come from a textbook. It actually came from the fire. And today she's here to share her story with us. So welcome to Polished Gems.
Oh, thank you. Oh, when you did that introduction, I thought that person sounds great. Who is it? And I'm like, oh, it's me. It's me. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. So before we dive into talking about faith,
Yeah.
what I want you to do is describe yourself. You are someone who mentioned moving from religious tradition into true intimacy with God. And I think before we dive into faith, we need to actually discuss that. Can you walk us through what that shift in your mindset looked like and maybe what triggered it?
Yeah. Well, faith has always been something I've had, but what the problem was, the religiosity that I had grown up in. So yeah, I had been raised in the church. I used to speak Christianese very well, and I did all the things. I was a good girl at one time. I did all those things, and then I began to question certain things, and it wasn't actually until inadvertently joining a cult. I thought it was a Pentecostal church because it didn't fit the criteria of what I thought a cult was, but I realized afterwards, oh my gosh. And so that was a bit of a challenge, not so much to my faith, because I'm like, Lord, I know you ain't in this, but what's wrong with these people? I'm like, Lord, come for your people because they're acting crazy. So I always have been an inquisitive person. I've never had blind faith. I ask critical questions and I want answers. and so that's how I reason. Even now with God, I'm like, Lord, what's going on there? So that's how my faith was actually born out of adversity. And through that process, and I know we're going to get into that in a moment, God taught me how to rely on him. He showed me a new like who he was. You can know, like, people at work know Jacinta in a different way, and the one at home and the one in church. We are multifaceted. So the Lord revealed himself to me in a new way, and I was like, oh, okay. So that began my not so much I had faith before, but I rediscovered him in a new way. So yes.
No, I love that you answered that. We're in a season where a lot of people think when they come to Christianity or come before God and get to know him, that it's by the book, by the rules, the regulations. It's the if I break a commandment, I'm going straight to hell. And the level of thank you, Holy Spirit. Holy Spirit said, it is feeling like we cannot make a mistake ever.
Yeah.
We are, and it's like, wait a minute, we are also human beings, and God has accounted for that humanity. Meaning he knows if we're going to make a mistake. This is the part about faith, and I'm so glad you actually brought that up because this is why a lot of people leave the church. I myself
Mm,
included. I told God I was done following the rules at 18 years old. I walked away from the church and from God because I was like, this is team too much. I said,
mm,
I thought life was going to be filled with his protection and filled with certain things. But let me
mm.
explain. I thought protection looked the way I wanted it to look, not the way God actually was giving it to me.
Right, right.
So because I put my expectation on God versus going, what do you actually want out of this situation? That's where my level of frustration increased to the point where I was like, you know what? I'm done. I'm gonna walk away. I will
Yeah.
never forget that day because God said, I will put my hand on you. It is still on you. So whenever
Mm,
you want to come back and try this thing again with me, I'm still waiting. And I can speak to those who have walked away, those prodigal sons and daughters who are like, oh, there's something better out here. Because, like you, look, went and I didn't get into a cult, but I did everything under the sun that I could think of as an 18-year-old who was like, oh, I'm free. I'm free from my parents and I'm free from God. But God was like, no, I'll wait. And here I am back learning that new version of him. Can you tell me? Because this is such a good topic. I want to talk more about this. What was that new version of God that he introduced himself to you as? Can you give us an example?
Yeah, I would say, and just on what you just said as well, it's so true. And because I was thinking as you said that, who told you that? So you see, our perception of God has been warped because we've been told lies about Him. It's like, who told you that you wouldn't have? Didn't Jesus warn you already? Be of good cheer because in this world you have trouble. You know, when you come to Him, they don't highlight that. And I know that they may feel it's a bad witness or discouraging, but no, it's quite cruel actually to mislead people and things like that. So that's why a lot of people do walk away. I never equated God with the church. I know that sounds a bit bizarre. I still don't fully. I know the church is the bride, but I was like, Lord, I want all of you, but none of this madness. Sometimes I still say that, but anyway, the defining moment. So it was about intimacy. So when you get to know someone, you get to know them better because you thought, oh, I thought you were like this, but I come to find you're like that. So you don't have thunderbolts and lightning, and you're not waiting for me to trip up. Because I said to him one day, Jacinta, I said, listen, if this is what Christianity is, I don't want it. I don't like it. It doesn't suit my personality. I don't want it. So take it away, you know. And he began to show me grace. He began to really minister to my soul in a way that had not been, because I'd read the scriptures, I knew certain things, but the revelation came. So just remind me of the last part of your question, Jacinta, just so I don't go off.
No, I think you actually answered it. It was just understanding, was there a moment that
Yeah,
God actually showed you a side of himself, and you brought it up when you mentioned the intimacy, because
yeah.
that's what's a lot of people are missing. If they actually focus on that intimacy with God, it actually
Mm,
makes church palatable and actually understandable. So, because of the fact that you can know which church you need to go to, which church you should get up out of, you will
mm.
know of God how long to stay at a place, when your car should be running so you can leave. Like, it's
Yeah.
those things that people don't realize. God wants us to have community, but what if community also looks different, especially for the season that you're in or the season that you're experiencing? And just to shift over to this section, you mentioned to me in the form that you filled out about going through a dark night of the soul. And I was like, that's so poetic. But what encompassed that, it seems like depression and even being overwhelmed at during that particular time that you were mentioning.
Mhm.
What I want to know is, we have a season of where there are so many people, Christians included, who go through a night like that where it feels like walking through the valley of the shadow of death. What did God meeting you in specifically in that dark night of your soul actually look like? Like, paint us that picture. And also, was there a moment or a process that you had to go through to even get up out of it?
Yeah. And this is the thing. You said even Christians. I'd say especially Christians. And if you haven't, then I wonder what's going on. If you ain't facing any spiritual warfare, what's going on? You just came down from heaven. Nothing's not going on for you. But I think if you live long enough, every believer has a time where they're challenged. Your whole being is challenged. Things that you once believed and your whole identity, because when we deviate from that, our identity is in Christ, of course, but we can forget that, and we live in this body here on the earth. So we have needs and wants and desires, and what we do, Christians, we tend to say, "Oh, bless God," when He gives you exactly what you want. You mentioned before, Jacinta, protection when it looked like what you want was great. We celebrate, don't we? Oh, I got the house, the car, the man. But what about when you don't? When it doesn't work out, what are you saying then? Because that's when you need faith. You don't need faith when you get what you want. So that season was about 15 years ago. It coincided with coming out of that because it was the cult. And they would twist scriptures. It was lots of coercion, manipulation. But I thought, oh, they're just looking out for my soul. They're just trying to help me. But God literally had to show me, because in that religiosity, I would constantly be waiting for the prophets that they had. They'd be like, what's he saying? And God made me see, you're putting these people before me. And I think He allowed them to kind of disappoint me and let me down, to show me, actually, it's me. Hello. I am your maker. I am the one who you need to commune with, not listen to what man says and be always seeking after that. But that process. So when we say, by the way, just so your viewers know, I've never been clinically depressed, but I call it a spiritual melancholy. So it's so although it doesn't meet the criteria for the DSM-5, it's a heaviness, and it's spiritual too. It's a heaviness. It's a feeling of hopelessness and restlessness, because you've forgotten your purpose. Or at that time I didn't even know what it was, and there was no one that could understand. I'd try and tell people, and they'd say, "Maz, no, you can't say that." They'd silence me. "Don't say that. That's not good for you to say that. You got to." So I had to pretend. I learned how to do the Christianese. Yes, I'm blessed and highly favored. When really what I wanted to say was, listen, I'm in the depths of despair. I don't know how long I can hold on. Can you help me? But of course, we do this spiritual bypassing in churches. Things like, when someone's at a funeral and they're crying, people will say to them, "Stop, don't cry." And I always think, why shouldn't they cry? It's very appropriate, actually. Someone's just died. What do you mean, don't cry? So we need to recognize our humanity. Jesus certainly did. When he was here in this body on earth, he had all the emotions. He wept after Lazarus. But anyway, I say all that to say that it was a crushing. It was a crushing of my soul. And it was awful. Listen, okay, let's keep it real. If I felt like dirt, I felt like, I was like, "Lord, I don't like it. Help me." And I felt misunderstood, felt like I was going a bit crazy. And it was a very lonely time, isolated. There was no one around. I think God actually made it that way to separate me so that I would. Because you pray differently, right? When you ain't got no one to call, nobody can understand. I'm like, Lord. So I was literally pouring out my soul. And I was like, "Help me." And He did. He did. Through various methods, books. He'd put the TV on at 2 a.m. Used to watch Daystar, a lot of Daystar TV. And I bought Chuck Swindoll's book about Amazing Grace, because I'd heard about this. We sing about it, but I never knew until I got the revelation of what grace actually means. And so that dark soul of the night was a turning point. It was the catalyst that made me ask, who am I? What am I doing here? And there's got to be more to life than this. And then he, as the years went by, He planted me in a healthy church, and He gave me those destiny helpers that supported me along the way. And yeah, he just rebuilt my soul. So that's that's what it looked like for me. But I and there's times, Jacinta, where you don't have enough strength. People, the advice often is, oh, you just got to pray more. There are times when prayer is not, especially when you do not even have the strength. You don't have it in you. So that's when you need your intercessors and what have you. But some people literally don't even have that. So that's why I love the book of Psalms. If you noticed, by the way, David, I'm just going to plug this because it is Mental Health Awareness Month. And I think we can't separate it as if it's a secular thing. There are many people who are afflicted. David was in his depression. Elijah was suicidal and depressed. Many of them, and understandably so. But the book of Psalms, I mentioned that because it was like me. It was, if you notice in the book of Psalms, it's beautiful because he'll say, Lord, why have you abandoned me? Paraphrasing, Lord, where you at? I can't see you. And then he's like, yeah, I remember. Do you remember when we used to sit together and we used to, and then it's up and down. You see how his mood is seemingly erratic, but he's remembering, he's trying to build himself. It's very poetic. And that spoke to me, to my soul. And I still go back to all of the Psalms because those are nourishment for my soul, especially when I forget myself. So, yeah.
That was so good. I love how real you are about this and about faith because having conversations of church as usual is not what God wants in this season. He really desires for us to speak on him and speak the truth about him. And I love that you brought up David and the Psalms. I remember when I was going through my season where my soul was going through the dark of night, that it was the book of Psalms. He kept saying, read the book of Psalms. He's like, flip through, pick one. I don't care which one. Just keep reading all of them. And I did notice like there would be high praise to God. Then there would be moments of God, why did you choose me? I'm just so meek and small. And like you paraphrasing. But there were moments of like, okay, I shouldn't even be here to, okay, God, I see what you're doing. And it would be up and down. And it got me through those emotions and the turmoil that it felt like I was experiencing to get through to the other side. Because what a lot of people don't realize is that dark soul of night that you were referencing can either last you anywhere from 3 months to years. It all depends on how long it takes you to really sit with God and get to know God for yourself. Because like you said, in that isolation, God is actually trying to get you to have relationship with him. And that's the purpose of it. And it's also, and you also use the word identity. He is trying to get you to understand your identity during that time. So the valley moments are actually very crucial to the walk. It's not just the mountaintop. The mountaintop is great. It is great for a moment, but you still got to go down into the valley to get to the next mountain. And that's what God kept showing me. He's like, this is why if you can go through each moment, and I always tell God, this is why I hate roller coasters. I hate it. Because they are the exact example of what life is like. It would be a moment you're like, yay, this is fun. Oh, God, help.
Yeah.
So for me, I hate them, but my daughter and my husband love them. And they will be like, let's go. And I said, no, that's too much like life. That is too much like real life.
Right.
So I want to also delve into the fact that you work with busy professionals and caregivers and helping them to show up for themselves. Now, I know in professions like that, but also being a mom, burnout is easy to not realize that you've been giving more of yourself rather than even taking care of yourself. How does that challenge people's faith that you've seen and even your own faith? What did God use to restore you or show you even how to help others restore themselves?
Yeah. Well, my whole life actually, Jacinta, is a living testimony. So although I work in the industry, yes, I work in mental health industry. Yes, I took those skills, and that's why I became a coach, because we were looking after, I became burnt out actually. I was looking, part of the job involves discharging psychiatric patients, and it wasn't even the patients, it wasn't even them, it was the politics and the other. I was like, that's what the madness was. But I had always had a passion for it. And yeah, I was like, well, what about staff well-being, employee well-being? And it was like, no, you just have to push through, work those extra hours. You can't take a break. I'm like, but that don't make no sense. Anyway, I was working in a toxic environment a few years back, and something had to give. And again, God showed me, you need to leave, because we think sometimes there is a place for, yes, we have to have endurance, and there is a place for, yes, sometimes you have to suffer. But we as Christians, we have some strange thinking, because we think that being Christian is synonymous with being a doormat. We think it's selfish if we don't give every last bit of ourselves till we're in the grave. It's like, who told you that? Because actually, God gave you resources, and you're meant to steward them, not mismanage them. So anyway, I'm going off. But the point is, my own burnout, to answer your question, was what inspired me. And I know and especially within the Black community, because we have a unique, not that everyone else doesn't get burned out, but the strong Black woman archetype, I never subscribed to that. But listen, my family from the Caribbean, and it's always that they almost pride themselves with how much trauma we can carry, and we're so resilient. I'm like, forget that. Like, it's making me ill. Your version of resilience and strength. Strength is actually asking for help. This is why, some people, Jacinta, I truly believe that's why they can't even receive the Lord, because you think you can do it on your own. What do you think his finished works on the cross were for? If you thought you could earn your way and do everything. So they struggle with the concept of grace, of finished works. Like you mentioned earlier, Jacinta, he died for our sins, our past sins, our present sins, and he knew about our future sins. So what are you doing, trying to buy your way by giving all the offering and trying to do all these good deeds, but inside you're empty? What are you really trying to do? So I think it comes back. Identity is everything. Who is Jesus to you? Who is he to you? Who are you? And we need to answer that, because often, and not just in dating. I mean, when I should have done that with my first husband, maybe I would maybe I wouldn't be divorced. But we ask questions like, "Oh, are you a Christian?" You know how many people identify as Christian, and then you get down to it, and then they turn out to be a witch or a warlock. Even some New Age people identify as Christian. So no, the question is, who is Jesus to you? That is the deciding factor about everything. But anyway, so to answer your question, yeah, burnout, my own burnout led me to start my ministry and my business. And people tell themselves, people are suffering in silence, and it can be quite deadly. So I thought, no, I know that if I'm feeling this way and I'm not allowed to ask anybody, imagine working in mental health services and you've got to hold it together. I can't say I'm struggling. Or in the church, I'm telling them, listen, I'm having some challenges. They're like, well, I rebuke you because Satan is on it. No, I'm just a human being having some struggles. Life is life in. Thank you. Can you pray for me or help me, sit with me? Don't be like Job's friends who condemned him. And, Job didn't even sin, but they accused him. So we need compassion. We need empathy, because sometimes I think when we're busy being self-righteous, we forget about other people's suffering and what they're doing. So that's what I try to help people. And that's how God uses me specifically. So yes, I hope that you asked a second bit. Sorry, look at me, lost in my own mind again. You asked something else about that question.
And listen, no, you could either answer that question about yourself or about the others that you help. And I think you tied it all in beautifully. So no, you did wonderful. In my book, I love this conversation because it's very raw about faith. Like, a lot of people think faith is this pretty, I don't know, rainbow. God will always remind me, this is not sunshine and rainbows. Not always. He's like, I will give you moments of sunshine, but just as there is sunshine, there is rain.
Right.
And if we take our cue from nature, like literally the nature that he had a hand in creating, we will understand Ecclesiastes that says there's a time and season under the sun for everything, even for crying and mourning. And I am with you all the way back up on a funeral. When people say, oh my God, you should be happy there. Miss Ma'am, go sit down. Right? And be like, let me cry. If I want to fall out in this floor, over my family member, allow me to do so.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
then when it's time for me to get up, check on me later. One of the things that I've always heard, especially here in the United States, is people will be like, no one really checks on the family after a time of bereavement. No one
Mm.
goes back and looks them up. Like, yeah, there might be sparingly, but no one
Mm.
goes back. I think a part of it is one, as a society, we've made it weird, if that makes any sense. Like, we
Mm.
don't know what to say.
Mm.
We critically do not know because, and the reason why I brought this up is because you mentioned compassion. I don't
Mm.
think we know how to be compassionate because we haven't had these intimate relationships with the Father. And we also don't have intimate relationships with Jesus. Jesus was taught, it was here on earth, not only to teach us how to live life, but also
Mhm.
how to be a friend. If you look at his friendship with Mary and Martha, if you look at it with Lazarus, with the disciples, you will see how to be a friend. And we don't take a page out of that. We're not teaching that when it comes to faith. So it is very easy for us to
Mhm.
look at God in such a weird, tainted way
Yeah. Yeah.
as well. So
True.
yeah, you answered the question beautifully, and I think you'll shine a light where the world hasn't really opened up about this. They feel we have to be on our P's and Q's and dot our I's and cross our T's when it comes to God, and God is like, no, I want you, the
Right.
raw you, the one that might still cuss, the one that might still have a drinking problem, the one that's a womanizer and dates around too. Like, I want you.
Right.
But
Exactly.
society will throw that person away.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but I want to also ask about this because you brought up another thing that's interesting. In your form, you mentioned that peace is something you're now intentional about protecting. And I know
Mm.
this is an interesting segue. Um, but what are some of the things that you, in particular, have had to say no to just to guard your peace? Whether it was something the world set a rule for or religion set a rule for.
Oh my goodness. Well, listen, I'm very big on boundaries, healthy boundaries I'm talking about. And so it started so things I've had to say no to, family members, work commitments. And that's hard to say, even in the church. Again, this Christians being synonymous with doormat. I will tell you, no, I'm not doing it. I don't care if listen, what is it's not my problem. Sorry. Now that might sound quite harsh and selfish, but when I say protecting my peace, I'm not talking about being cold and not helping people out. I'm talking about, we have to remember the workplace. There are environments that you attract certain emotional vampires, let's say. They will be there because, listen, I always said if I was a con man or something, if I was a fraudster, the easiest place to be to defraud people would be the church because it's so easy. If I was a womanizer, if I was a man being a woman, church, so easy bait. Because the women, listen, I brought a male friend to church one time. This was a few years back. I went to the bathroom and I said, okay, I came back 10 women around him. I was like, gosh, he's so thirsty. And he said, yeah, church women are thirsty. But anyway, I digress. The point is that we have as the Bible tells us, we are to be as innocent as doves, but as wise as serpents. And I think we forget the wisdom part because we're like, oh, we go on appearances and they seem like a nice guy. Seem like, no, what is it? Where is your discernment? What are you talking about? So we have even Satan up in the pulpit and we cannot discern that. So yeah, we I've had to say no. So in that cult I had to say no because it was detrimental to my soul. I had to say no to certain narcissistic family members, and I don't mean narcissist. I love myself in the mirror. I'm talking about people with that spirit of Jezebel, that Leviathan spirit, people who come to kill, steal, and destroy, agents of Satan. Literally, I'm telling you, I've had to say no to because I value my life, and I'm not. So all these things, that's why I'm never a big believer on family. Oh, it's family, or oh, that's no. some people are still assigned to kill, steal, and destroy. I had to say no when I was burnt out to all those additional hours. I wasn't sleeping. And, I had to say no when I was losing the weight and I lost, you guys do kilograms. I don't know. No, you do pounds. We do stones over here. But anyway, I lost a whole person like it was 8 stone. That's a whole. Listen, I had to say no to the cake and things that I love. I had to say no. I have to say no daily to myself because there's some things and I the flesh. And I'm like, Lord, I don't want, even today, I don't want to go to work. Lord, can you, I don't want to. And I murmur, just like the Israelites did. I do. I am a serial complainer, but I have to check my perspective. And I'm like, okay, Lord, all right, I'll do it. So yeah, there are many things. And I think as long as you're a person, you might be empathic like me, but as long as you're giving, someone will always take. And like I said earlier, we need to be good stewards of what the Lord has given us. So just because you're wealthy, it doesn't mean you should give away all your money. Just if you have a lot of time, you might be retired. It doesn't mean you enable the local drug addict, So we have to exercise wisdom, help people, yes, but do it with wisdom. And don't think that, because people used to say, what would Jesus do? And half the things that you were doing is not what Jesus would do. Somebody asked me the other day, Maz, where does it say in the Bible that you're to have boundaries? I said, Jesus had boundaries. He see how he dealt with the Pharisees. You see how he flipped them tables when they were getting out of line. You see how he would go off and retreat when the crowds got too much. He had to. When he was in the flesh, he was a human being. He had to. Otherwise, they would have overwhelmed him. He healed them, yes. He went about and he preached and he taught them. But there were times where he needed that period of isolation to pray to the Father. So anyway, that's all I'm saying, that we need to say no, because saying no to the other distractions can also mean saying yes, to God. And we need to nourish, we need to be pouring from an overflow. You're not meant, just like you wouldn't drive your car, would you, Jacinta, with that? You don't have no gas, you don't, that it's going to break down. So why would you run yourself into the ground trying to please everybody? I don't understand that. But anyway, there you go.
That was beautifully said. So, Maz, I just want to thank you so much for being my guest. And this conversation to me has been a gem. And I pray for the listeners that it has been as well. But before I let you go, for anyone listening and who has been inspired about this revelation on faith, because like I said, it needs to be talked about more, and they want to continue staying connected to you, can you let us know on social media where they can?
No, they should leave me alone. Just joking. Don't mind me. I'm a bit of a clown. But yes, you can find me. See my name there, Maz Alexander, LinkedIn, on Instagram, Maz Transformational Coaching. And I just want to finally say that please don't suffer in silence. You were not meant to carry the burdens alone. God knows your pain and he is closer than you think. So that's one of the things that got me through. Draw James 4:8, draw close to the Lord and he will draw close to you. He's not far away. He's not beyond your reach. So yeah, reach out.
Perfect. Guys, you heard it here first. So thank you again for joining us on another episode of Polished Gems. And you guys stay polished. Have a wonderful evening. Bye, guys.
Thank you.